Well folks, it's happened. Games Workshop has rebooted Warhammer Underworlds with this new starter set, Warhammer Underworlds Embergard. For those of you that have not played before, Warhammer Underworlds is a miniatures-based board game with a heavy card element to it, making it very well suited for competitive play. I got into Warhammer Underworlds just before Nightvault released. For a few cycles I was a keen player of the game, but over time it got increasingly complex, and by the end of the pandemic I reduced myself to just collecting, and sometimes even painting, the warbands, which I think are some of the best sculpts Games Workshop has ever put out. For me, this reset is long overdue, and in combination with their promises of products being available as long as it's usable in play, that's a huge improvement on their old sales model in my opinion, and we'll see if they stick to it, as it feels like they've long been hooked on the FOMO sales model. I'm not a big YouTube star, and so Games Workshop didn't send me an advance copy to get all of this done before the game even dropped. I had to wait for the game to appear under my Christmas tree for me to get my grubby little mitts on it, and so I have, and here it is. So let's see what this set has. Having not bought many minis in this last year, I was surprised to see that Games Workshop has moved to less plastic in their packaging. A welcome move that seems to align with their sprue recycling program for 2023. Opening the box up, we have another box. So the plastic has been replaced with a load of plastic-coated paper. I'm not really sure this is going to do much to save the planet. The artwork is beautiful though. I love the play of the Skaven's warp energy on the fiery action-themed backdrop especially. Cracking it open, inside we have a rulebook, some quick start rules, a miniatures assembly guide for both warbands, a couple of War Scroll cards, one for each faction, Zikit's Tunnel Pack, and the Ember Watch. Our usual punch board full of tokens, double-sided and with various values on the valued tokens, going 1 on one side, 2 or 5 on the other. A single game board this time. The hexes look a lot smaller than in previous editions as well. It is still double-sided, which is nice. Also looks like there may be more spaces available to players than in the previous edition, so possibly more space for maneuvering. And finally, for this box in a box, there is a whole bunch of cards, as you'd expect for Warhammer Underworlds. Taking a deeper look at the cards, looks like they've actually got reference cards for the game, which is a really nice touch. I'm looking forward to playing the game and seeing how much they reduce the need to consult the rulebook for things that come up frequently enough but maybe you don't remember. We have the first Rivals deck here, Pillage and Plunder. Looks like this is a deck around maneuvering and controlling and trying to secure treasure tokens. Next up is the other Mastery deck. This is Countdown to Cataclysm. This deck is a bit of an unknown to me. I think I'm really going to have to actually play it to get a better sense of it. It has some aggro, it has a little bit of control, it has bits of everything by the looks of it. And then there's this countdown mechanic, and I can't really figure out how how effective that's going to be. I think it's one of these decks that does need a little bit of shenanigans to really get it running. So the last two decks are going to be the decks that you probably play your first game with. These are the more standard Rivals decks for these factions to introduce you to the game. We've got the fighter cards for Sicket's Tunnel Pack. They've gone with the nice clean design here and photos of the miniatures. And then we've got the Emberstone Sentinels deck. This looks to be another control deck, maybe a little bit more cautious than Pillage and Plunder. Hopefully a little bit simpler, more straightforward to play as well. A lot of these cards look to be rewrites, redos of existing cards. I think some of the rules text has been changed so it aligns better. Being a starter set, you'd hope it's pretty well balanced. We have the fighter cards for Emberwatch also, and remember to flip these ones over to the inspired side this time. And they're bundled with the Blazing Assault Rivals deck, which is all aggro. So this is very in your face, very get out there and get killing. Pretty simple to play, and I think especially with Emberwatch's array of ranged weaponry, this should be a pretty effective combination. They'll be able to start dealing damage without even being in base contact. Hey folks, so I was doing the funnel editing and realized there's one really important thing to me that I left out of this unboxing video. And that was a comment about the card art, or rather the lack of card art. Card art is hugely important to me when I get into a game. The aesthetic, the visual element of a game is always super important. The card art in this game is actually really what pushed me over the edge into getting the first set of Warhammer Underworlds when it first came out. And Games Workshop have decided to replace that with kind of mocked up photos of the heavy metal paint jobs of the miniatures. And the heavy metal paint jobs are gorgeous. They're great. But we see them already quite a lot on various promotional material, on all the box art and things like that. I wanted something a little bit more. I realized that getting rid of the artists is a cost-cutting measure. And honestly, I'm glad it's not just replacing them with AI-generated artwork. But for me personally, it's a huge miss that the artwork isn't there. I know for a lot of people it doesn't matter. I know it's really probably not going to impact their sales, and at the same time they're getting even better margins than they usually do on their products. But for me, it's a disappointment. It is enough that I may hesitate to buy Rivals decks instead of just buying them automatically, because I'm not going to get that visual interest, and unless I know that I'm going to play them, you know, is there a point in trying to pick it up? That's kind of just where I'm at, and I wanted to share that with you guys. So there we have it. This rulebook is a lot thinner than the later seasons of the previous edition of Warhammer Underworlds. The rules seem largely the same. I've only taken a cursory glance at this so far. There are obviously a few changes. The stat lines of most fighters have changed. Special text for warbands are now included on the War Scroll cards instead of the fighter cards. Because you only have that single board, the setup is obviously quite a bit different because there's no negotiation of how the boards are arranged. One interesting change that I really like is that you draw your hand of cards before you roll anything to figure out who goes first or anything. I think there were definitely some instances, even back when I was playing, where I would make a decision and the hand of cards that I then drew really didn't support that decision of going first, going second, or choice of game board, etc. So I do like that. It's interesting that they've got like 4 straight pages dedicated to fluff in this rulebook. I feel like that was something that was pretty thin on the ground in previous Underworlds. maybe I just wasn't paying attention to it. I was more interested in the game rules, but it is a nice inclusion here. I also like the rules reference at the back. I think that's going to be quite handy, especially in combination with those cards, and I look forward to seeing how that goes. Of course, a new set means a new set of dice. Warhammer Underworlds has always used its own particular dice, and these are no different. You will notice that there's only attack and defense dice, those 3 black defense dice and 5 orange attack dice. I really love that translucent orange look. It's a really nice, fiery, Acti-esque vibe. No magic dice anymore. It seems like magic is now just a type of ranged attack. Okay, now on to the good stuff. Models! These have been cast up in the same coloured plastics that we've come to expect from Games Workshop starter sets. Useful way for new players to be able to identify one side versus another without having had to paint anything. The sculpting in these is pretty good. I will be honest, I think the Emberwatch side, the Stormcast Eternals, are a little disappointing. For me, there's not a lot going on with Stormcast models, and therefore it all becomes about the faces. And the facial sculpt, certainly from the heavy metal paint that we've seen in promotional material, hasn't been great, I don't think. They're a little chisel-jawed, they're a little lacking personality. Zicket's Tunnel Pack, however, I absolutely love these models. They are so fun, they're so full of character. I mean, obviously little Tick-Tick with his backpack bomb, adorable. But I also absolutely love the mini Doom Wheel that Ritak is running around on. And I also really love Zicket himself. He's got like this nice commanding posture that actually makes for a serious looking Skaven, which I think is a little unusual. Most Skaven always look a little bit cartoony to me, but this one looks kind of fairly purposeful, meaning business, which I like. If you want to see my tips and guidance on how to assemble these models and see them fully assembled, check out this video. I got a little carried away. I put that video out before I even dropped the box opening video. I had a ton of fun assembling these models. And if you're interested in painting them up a go, then check out my next video, should drop in about a week. The best way to find out about that is to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Make sure that notification bell is checked, so as soon as that video is dropped, you see it in your notifications. Please consider liking the video. Put a comment in the box below. Have you picked up this game? Are you going to pick up this game? What about it interests you? I'd love to know all of those things. And in the meantime, thanks for watching, and later days.